What if I told you? A 17-year-old girl, the daughter of a janitor, sat in a small kitchen with a second-hand laptop and walked into a $1 million business meeting alone. No business degree, no fluent English, no translator. Just one thing, a dream she refused to let go of. This story will move you because it's not just about money. It's about power, the power of belief. Her name is Maya. She came from nothing. No rich family, no business connections. She watched her father leave home every night in a faded uniform, pushing his janitor's cart down long, empty hallways. But even in the silence, Maya was listening. She wasn't cleaning floors. She was cleaning doubt out of her mind. At night, while the city slept, she dreamed big. Not just for herself, but for her father, for her people, for every kid who was ever told, "You're not enough." Before Maya sat in front of that $1 million deal, before she had the confidence to speak without a translator, before the cameras, the meetings, the success, there was the struggle. Maya grew up in a 2-room apartment in a rough part of the city. The buildings were old, the walls were cracked, and the streets outside were filled with noise, not the kind that brings comfort, but the kind that keeps you up at night. She shared a small room with her younger brother and often did her homework on the floor, using an upside-down laundry basket as a desk. Her father, Mr. Kwame, was a proud man. He had once been a school teacher in Ghana. He wore glasses that were always sliding down his nose and a quiet smile that rarely left his face. But here, in America, no one called him sir or teacher. Now, he was the janitor. He worked nights in office buildings that gleamed with glass and chrome, places Maya could only dream of entering. He'd come home with tired eyes and hands rough from chemicals and mop handles. But he never let Maya see him complain. He'd simply say, "Education is the way. Keep going, my daughter." Every night, Maya watched him leave at 8 p.m. with his old blue uniform and a thermos of tea. And every night she promised herself, "I will change our life." But change didn't come easy. When Maya moved to the U.S. at age 9, she knew only a few English words. Yes, no, hello, thank you. In Ghana, she had spoken Twi. Here, her accent made her stand out. At school, kids laughed when she read aloud. Some mimicked the way she said certain words. Others ignored her completely. She stopped talking in class. She started sitting in the back. At lunchtime, she would eat alone, quietly, quickly, so no one would notice her. Teachers called her shy. But Maya wasn't shy. She was afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid of sounding stupid, afraid of being seen. At home, there was no internet, no computer, just a second-hand TV with broken sound and a pile of old library books. But Maya had something more powerful than any laptop. Hunger. Hunger to learn, hunger to grow, hunger to become something different. She began walking to the library after school. Every day. Rain or snow, she went. She'd sit in the far corner, near the business section, and pull out whatever she could find. Books about companies, about markets, about sales, and products, and people. She didn't understand most of the words at first, so she made her own dictionary. In an old notebook, she'd write, entrepreneur, someone who starts a business, revenue, money that comes in, profit, what's left after paying bills. She read each chapter 10 times, sometimes more. When her time at the computer ended, she'd copy entire web pages by hand just to read them later at home. And even when she couldn't read something completely, she didn't quit. She would guess, reread, and move forward. Sometimes she stayed until closing time, walking home in the dark with no fear. Because the library was her light, At school, while other kids were on Instagram or Snapchat, Maya was watching TED Talks and business speeches. She'd write down how people spoke, the words they used, the tone, the confidence. And she practiced. Not just reading, but speaking. She would stand in front of the mirror and repeat phrases in English. I am a businesswoman. I have a plan. I will succeed. Over and over, until she started believing them. But even with all her work, the world didn't make things easy. She applied for a summer program for young entrepreneurs. They rejected her. She signed up for a local pitch competition. They ignored her application. No response at all. She emailed small companies asking for internships. They either said no or never replied. And at school, no one saw her as someone smart. She wasn't on the honor roll. She didn't speak in debates. She didn't have perfect grades, not because she wasn't capable, but because she was learning 2 languages at once, English and business. One teacher even told her, maybe focus on simpler goals, Maya, like nursing or hospitality. You need strong communication for business. That hurt, because Maya knew what she wanted. She could feel it. A fire in her chest that no rejection could put out. So she stopped waiting for someone to give her a chance and started creating her own. She reached out to her uncle back in Ghana, a man who worked with local cocoa farmers. She asked questions, lots of them. How much cocoa do they grow? How do they sell it? What's the price per kilo? Are they treated fairly? She was shocked to learn that the farmers were often underpaid. Their cocoa sold to agents who took most of the money. These farmers, who worked day and night under the sun, saw only a tiny part of the profit. That made Maya angry, and then determined. What if I could help them sell directly to companies, she thought. What if I could be the voice they don't have? She began building a plan. She wrote emails to small chocolate brands and food companies across Europe and America. She used the library computers to research exporters, shipping rates, fair trade regulations. Her first emails were clumsy. Her grammar wasn't perfect. Her proposals were too long. She didn't know how to price things yet. But she kept writing. Dozens of emails, hundreds, each one better than the last. She saved every reply, even the rejections. She studied what got ignored and what got a response. She watched tutorials on writing better subject lines. She learned how to build trust with just a few short words. And then, after months of silence, one reply changed everything. A company in Europe, a mid-sized food distributor, responded. They said, "We're interested in direct cocoa trade. Can you set up a call?" Maya froze. This was it. But she wasn't ready. Not in the way most people would expect. She didn't have a business license. She didn't have a team. She didn't even have her own laptop. And worst of all, she still worried about her English. What if I mess up? What if they laugh at me like the kids used to? What if I can't understand them? But then she remembered something her father always said. If you wait until you're ready, you'll wait forever. So she said yes. Yes to the meeting. Yes to the pressure. Yes to the fear. Because behind all the doubt was a deeper voice, quiet but strong, whispering, "This is your moment."
Maya had just said yes to something that could change everything. A real company, a real meeting, a real chance. But the road to that moment? It wasn't easy. She had 1 week to prepare. 7 days that would test her more than any school exam ever had. The meeting was set for Monday at 3 p.m. European time. That meant early morning where she lived. It meant waking up before the sun, before school, before the world. She didn't tell anyone at school about it. Not her teachers. Not her classmates. They wouldn't understand. They never had. She only told 2 people. Her father and herself. Maya had no computer at home. Her school had a Chromebook loan program, meant for homework and class projects. She went to the librarian and quietly asked if she could borrow one for the weekend. The librarian smiled and handed it over. "That's for students who want to do something big," she said. Maya nodded, but didn't say what she had planned. She just smiled back and said, "Thank you." That weekend, she turned their small kitchen into her war room. She cleared the table. She hung a white bedsheet on the wall behind her chair to make a clean video background. She used her dad's old iron to smooth out the wrinkles. On Saturday, she worked on her presentation slides. She didn't know how to use PowerPoint at first. So she Googled how to make business slides step by step. She followed YouTube tutorials one by one, slowly building her deck. Slide 1. Who she was. Slide 2. Where the cocoa came from. Slide 3. How it was grown. Slide 4. Her vision: fair trade, direct buying, better prices for farmers. Slide 5. The numbers. Shipping. Delivery time. She triple-checked everything. She used simple English. Short words. Clean sentences. She wanted to be clear, not fancy. On Sunday, she practiced her speaking. And again. And again. She recorded herself on her phone. Listened to every word. Deleted it. Did it again. When she got stuck on a hard word like logistics or inventory, she didn't skip it. She broke it down. Practiced it 10 times. Until it rolled off her tongue. Her father sat quietly on the couch watching her. Sometimes he'd nod. Other times he'd whisper, "Slower, Maya. Speak with calm. You don't need to rush to prove yourself." She listened. At night, he gave her his best dress shirt, the one he wore only on job interviews. It was too big, but it was clean, and full of meaning. The morning of the meeting came. Maya woke up at 5 a.m. She made tea for her father, boiled water for her own nerves, and sat at the table, heart pounding, hands cold. She connected the laptop, opened the slides, checked the internet connection 3 times. She used the Wi-Fi from the neighbor's house, with permission, just for that day. As the time ticked down, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, she closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "You belong in that room. You speak for the people who've been ignored. Be their voice. Be your voice." She clicked Join Meeting. 4 people appeared on the screen. 3 men, 1 woman, all in business attire. Their backgrounds looked like offices, modern, glass walls, plants in corners. They looked confused at first. 1 man leaned forward and asked politely, "Excuse me, is someone else joining the call with you? Your manager, perhaps?" Maya smiled softly. "No. It's just me. I'm the one you emailed." The woman raised her eyebrows slightly, then nodded. "Okay," she said. "Let's begin." Maya clicked Share Screen. Her slides appeared. Her voice began. She explained everything, clearly, slowly, confidently. She told them about the farmers, about the struggle, about the quality of the cocoa, about the unfair systems that kept small farmers poor. She showed photos, data, and documents. They asked questions. "How will you guarantee delivery? What's your quality check process? Can we get samples?" Maya answered each one. If she didn't know the exact word, she found another way to explain. Simple words. Honest answers. She didn't pretend to know everything. But what she did know, she owned completely. When one of the men asked how old she was, she paused. "I'm 17, she said. "But I've been preparing for this for many years." There was silence. Then the woman smiled. "You're impressive," she said. The man at the center of the screen, the one with the biggest office behind him, leaned back and folded his arms. "We weren't expecting this," he said. Maya swallowed. Then he added, "But we're glad we showed up." He turned to his team. They nodded. "Bryn, send us your proposal," he said. The call ended. Maya sat frozen for a moment. Then she slowly closed the laptop. Her hands were shaking. She looked over at her father, who was standing by the door with tears in his eyes. She stood up. He walked to her. And without saying a word, he hugged her tightly. The room was quiet. But inside that silence, a storm of joy. She didn't scream. She didn't dance. She just cried. Tears of pride. Tears of relief. Tears of knowing. She did it. Not because she was lucky, but because she refused to give up. The meeting was over. The camera was off. But Maya was still frozen in her chair. For a few seconds, she didn't move. Not a blink. Not a breath. Her hands were still on the table. Her mouth slightly open. The laptop screen now dark. Across the room, her father stood completely still. He had watched every minute silently. Not saying a word, not making a sound. Just standing there, like a statue carved out of pride. Then finally, a breath escaped from Maya's chest. A small, shaky breath, the kind you take after climbing a mountain. She looked at her father. He looked back. And they both knew. It was done. She had done the impossible. She had stood in front of executives. Explained business. Talked numbers. Answered questions. Corrected herself when she needed to. Took her time. Owned the moment. And the result? A promise. A deal. A door opened, not just for her, but for others like her. Flashback. Just days before, Maya was still practicing how to say, cost breakdown. She was still worrying about her accent. Still unsure whether they'd even take her seriously. But when that call began, something inside her switched. She realized they didn't need her to sound perfect. They needed her to be honest. To speak with purpose. To speak with passion. And she did. When one executive asked how she could guarantee the cocoa's quality, she didn't panic. She calmly explained, "The farmers we work with grow their cocoa with care. It's not a machine process. It's human. It's generations of knowledge. I know the farms. I know the people. I've tasted the beans. You're not just buying a product. You're buying a story. A legacy." The woman on the call leaned back and said softly, "You're not just a salesperson, are you?" Maya smiled. "No," she said. "I'm a bridge." When they told her she had the deal, she didn't shout. She didn't dance around the room. She simply nodded, thanked them, and clicked, "Leave meeting." But inside, her heart was roaring. She had proved herself without shouting, without over-talking, without needing anyone to speak for her. Her voice was enough. After the call, Maya and her father sat down at the kitchen table. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. He poured them both a cup of tea, Ghanaian style, with strong leaves and warm milk. They sipped in silence. At one point, he placed his hand on hers and whispered, "You are everything I hoped you'd become." That broke her. The tears returned not of fear or pressure, but of pride. For years, Maya had felt small, invisible, unworthy. But now she saw herself clearly. A young woman, with a clear voice, and a seat at the table, not because she was invited, but because she built the table herself. Voiceover. Later that evening, she pulled out her notebook, the one she had filled with business words and ideas. She flipped to the first page. Goal: change the game for farmers. Speak clearly. Learn fast. Never quit. She smiled. She had done all three. The next day at school, everything looked the same. Same noisy hallways. Same faces. Same dull classes. But Maya was not the same. She walked differently. Her head was higher. Her steps more sure. She was still the girl who read quietly at lunch. Still the girl with the thick accent. Still the girl from the small apartment. But now, she was also the girl who had closed $1 million deal. And no one, not a single person, could take that away from her. The next few weeks were a blur. She sent over official documents. She got help from a local nonprofit to review contracts. She began planning cocoa shipments. She kept studying, kept learning. And most of all, she stayed humble. She didn't post about it. Didn't show off. She let her work speak for her. She was still just Maya, the girl who walked to the library, the girl who borrowed Wi-Fi, the girl who made her father proud with every word she spoke. Closing line of the scene, soft pause. This wasn't the end of her journey. It was just the beginning. The moment Maya said, "I'll speak for them," she spoke for herself, and for thousands who had been silenced for too long. After the call, life didn't change overnight. There was no parade, no viral video, no breaking news headlines saying, Teenager from nowhere closes $1 million deal. But for Maya, everything had changed. Voiceover. That night, she couldn't sleep. Not from fear this time, but from excitement. From ideas. From the weight of the new world she had just stepped into. She kept replaying the meeting in her mind. Every word she had spoken, every answer she had given, every second she had stayed calm, even when her hands were shaking. She wrote 3 simple lines in her notebook before going to bed. I did it. I'm not done. This is for them. The next morning, she went to school. The same classmates. The same noise. The same walls covered with posters for clubs she never joined. But this time, she walked in different. She wasn't just a student. She was a CEO in the making. A 17-year-old with a vision far bigger than her surroundings. No one knew what had happened. No one saw the call. No one clapped when she entered. And that was okay. Because Maya didn't need the world's validation. She had earned her own respect. That week, she focused on next steps. The company sent over official paperwork. Maya didn't pretend to understand everything. She was smart enough to ask for help. She reached out to a small nonprofit she had once read about, one that helped young Black entrepreneurs. They answered. They couldn't believe what she had done. They connected her to a legal advisor who explained the contract line by line. They helped her make sure everything was fair. No one took advantage. No one talked down to her. They saw her for who she was. A leader. And Maya? She kept learning. She kept working. She contacted the cocoa farmers in Ghana, many of whom had never sold directly to a foreign buyer before. She explained the deal in their language. She told them, "You're not just farmers anymore. You're partners. You're part of something bigger." And for the first time in their lives, they felt seen. She helped arrange fair prices. She made sure the farmers got more than they ever had before. No middlemen taking the largest cut. No confusing deals. Just respect and profit. One farmer, an old man named Kojo, called her our daughter from the future. Another said, "We've been growing for 40 years, but now someone is finally fighting for us." Maya was no longer just a dreamer. She was a bridge between 2 worlds. She could have stopped there. One big deal. One huge win. Enough to change her family's life. But Maya didn't stop. She asked herself, if I can help one farm, why not 10? Why not 100? She began building something bigger, a small online platform. Just a simple website at first, made using free tools. But it had a mission. Connect honest farmers in Africa to ethical buyers across the world. Direct. Transparent. She called it Roots Direct. The logo was simple, a tree growing from deep soil with 2 hands shaking under its roots. And the tagline? Real farmers. Real stories. Real trade. At first, only a few companies visited the site. Then a few more. Then a journalist from a small blog noticed her story. They wrote an article called, "Teen Girl Breaks the Trade Barrier with Courage and Cocoa." The article spread. Slowly, then suddenly, emails began flooding in. Other young people asked, "How did you do it?" Farmers from Nigeria, Uganda, and Ivory Coast asked, "Can we join?" And buyers from around the world asked, "How can we be part of this?" Maya never claimed to have all the answers. She was still learning, still growing, still a student in every way that mattered. But she said yes, again and again. Yes to helping. Yes to building. Yes to leading. Voiceover. She was invited to speak at youth conferences, to give talks in schools, to sit on small business panels. She was nervous at first. She still didn't love public speaking. But every time she opened her mouth, people listened. Not because her voice was loud, but because her story was true. She always started the same way. "My name is Maya. My father is a janitor. I used to be afraid to speak. Now I speak for thousands." And her father? He still worked. Still cleaned offices. But now his uniform was a badge of honor. He told everyone who would listen, "That's my daughter. The one who changed everything." With nothing but a borrowed laptop and a burning heart. Maya's story didn't end with one deal. It started there. Because real success isn't one moment. It's what you do with that moment. It's how you turn your voice into a path, and your path into a road, and your road into a bridge for others to cross. Maya's story isn't just about business. It isn't even just about success. It's about a shift. A moment when a girl from a forgotten corner of the world stood up and said, "I am not waiting for permission." She didn't speak perfect English. She didn't have a degree. She didn't wear a name-brand suit. But she had what most people never find. Fire purpose. Fire courage. Fire that wouldn't die. She taught us something powerful, that your background is not your boundary. That broken grammar doesn't mean broken dreams. That your silence isn't weakness, it's fuel waiting to ignite. Maya didn't break into the business world the traditional way. She built her own door. And she walked through it. Not with pride, but with humility and vision. So here's the truth. You don't need to be fluent to be heard. You don't need money to be clever. You don't need connections to be powerful. You need white heavy checkmark the willingness to learn, even when it's hard. White heavy checkmark the patience to be ignored and still move forward. White heavy checkmark the guts to show up, even if your hands are shaking. That's what Maya had. That's what you have too. Maybe no one believes in you yet. Maybe you feel too young, too old, too broken, too behind. But listen closely. So did she. And still she tried. And that's the difference. That's what creates a leader. Not waiting. Not wishing. But acting. So the next time someone underestimates you, smile. Because they don't see what's coming. They don't see the late nights. The quiet grind. The hidden fire. But you do. You've seen it in yourself. And now, you've seen it in Maya. Her accent didn't hold her back. It carried her story. Her background didn't disqualify her. It gave her depth. And her pain? It became her power. So let me ask you something. Speech balloon, what's the dream you've been too scared to say out loud? Speech balloon, what's the business idea sitting in your notebook? Speech balloon, what would happen if today, right now, you took the first step? If this story touched you? If Maya's courage moved something inside of you? Then don't keep it to yourself. Backhand index pointing right, leave a comment below. Tell us, what dream are you chasing? What's one fear you're going to face, starting today? Backhand index pointing down, scroll down and type it. Let it live outside your head. Let it become real. And when you're ready for more, movie camera, watch our next video. Another real, powerful story that will remind you. You're not too small. You're not too late. And you're never alone. This is not just a channel. This is your space to rise. Your fuel. Your fire. So subscribe. Because your journey starts here. Your voice matters. Your dream matters. And you? You're just getting started.